Okay, tonight is Matthew chapter 25.
Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps, and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps, and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps.
All right, so this is a parable of Jesus, and it's referred to as the parable of the 10 virgins. So now he's describing 10 women, all right, and we should, I guess, speak about the setting here a little bit, all right. When it says that they went forth to meet the bridegroom, right. Now we're not saying that the bridegroom was getting 10 wives or anything, right, but really they were more likely in the story supposed to be like 10 maybe who were attendants. Okay, they were involved with the wedding in some way, right? That they were, they were invited. Maybe they were the bridal party, right? Let's just say, right? So they were 10 women who were somehow involved with the wedding. Okay, so it says, and again, it's talking about the kingdom of heaven is likened unto this now, the story that's going to be told. So it says that there was 10 virgins who took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom, right? And now there were 5 wise and 5 foolish. Right, so it says the ones that were wise took oil with them for their lamps, and the ones who were not wise didn't. Okay, yeah, you might liken that to today. I mean, if you were carrying a flashlight with no batteries, all right, or a cell phone that wasn't charged up, okay, and you didn't bring your charger with you, all right, so you're unprepared, all right. That's what the oil for the lamp was, all right. In order to make the lamp light up, you had to put oil in it to be able to strike the flame, and would make like a little flame inside the glass part, and that was the lamp, all right? So we're not talking about like an electric lamp, obviously, we're talking about that kind of a lamp. So you needed oil, or the lamp did you no good, right? Like I said, just like the other examples I gave, a cell phone that's not charged with no charger does you no good, all right? So the ones that were wise, it says they took the oil with them, so this way they could light the lamps, and the ones who were foolish didn't, all right? So they had the lamps, but no oil, so they weren't going to be able to light them up when the time came, okay, which is pretty foolish.
While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, Give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. But the wise answered, saying, Not so, lest there be not enough for us and you. But go ye rather to them that sell, and buy for yourselves.
The 10 women, they're waiting for the bridegroom to arrive, right? And so in 5 it says, while the bridegroom tarried, or in other words, while they were waiting for him, right, they all fell asleep. Okay, so they fell asleep waiting for him, I guess because he was taking a long time, right? And so they fell asleep, right? And all the way until midnight, right? In verse 6 it says, and at midnight, it says there was a cry. It says, "Whoa, it's time, right? The bridegroom coming. Let's go out and meet him, and I'm going to go into the wedding now, right? So the time has come. So they all got up and they got their lamps ready to go, right? But as we said earlier, only 5 of them had oil for the lamps. So the other 5, maybe for the first time, are saying, "Hey, wait a minute, we can't light the lamps, all right? We don't have any oil." So in 8 they realized that. So what do? They turn to the other 5 and they say, "Hey, you got oil? Let me have some of your oil, and this way, but I can light my lamps too." And you see their answer in verse 9. It says, but the answer is saying, "Well, no, we can't do that, because if we give you ours, then we won't have enough for our own lamps, right? And maybe enough to light them all, but it's not enough to last the whole night. So we brought enough to last the whole night. If I give you half of mine, then halfway through the night, mine's going to go out. So I'm sorry, I'd like to help you, but I can't give up mine for you in this case. So maybe you have time to go to the store and buy some. All right, that's what it says in 9. Go rather to them that sell and buy for yourselves. All right, go buy your own oil. And, since you forgot to bring it, I'm not going to bring you mine and have my lamp go out. All right, so and again, hopefully you see the point of that, right? Of course, for them is that it's not that they're being selfish or not generous, but they only have enough to last till the end of the night, and so if they give away theirs, then theirs is going to run out, and so they really couldn't spare it, right? And keep going back to the cell phone example, would be like, all right, Mine is in charge. You have a charger here. Give me your charger, and I'll use the rest of the night. But then you're not going to have one. So then you're just going to run out, and then you don't have a charger, right? So in this case, they couldn't share the oil because it would have meant that their lamps wouldn't work.
And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. Afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, I know you not. Watch therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh.
All right, so as you could probably have guessed what's going to happen, all right, in verse 10, it says, so they did go to the store, the five who didn't have it, and it says, while they were at the store, the bridegroom came, all right, the bridegroom came, and the five who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was shut. All right, and so unlike maybe things today, this was something where punctuality counts. All right, the door was shut, and so 11 it says that afterward they came. I guess now they have the oil. They said, let us in. All right, and said, sorry, sorry, I don't know you, and then you're not coming in. Right, the thing has started. The door is shut, and that's all there is. All right, so therefore the ones who were the foolish ones didn't have the oil. Now they missed out on the whole thing because they didn't have the oil and they didn't have the lamps ready to go in. All right, so now in 13 it's summarizing this, which we're going to summarize it more in a minute. It says, watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. As you consider this parable, all right, I want you to remember what we read last week, all right, in the previous chapter, right, in chapter 24. All right, a lot of what we read was to be ready at all times because you don't know when the time is coming. All right, we talked about the second coming of Christ, for example. All right, and it said, be ready at all times because you don't know when it's going to come. He could come as a thief in the night. It's said, all right. So you got to be ready at all times. So this parable is addressing the same thing. All right, saying that you don't know when the Lord is going to come, so you need to be ready at all times. Now, this particular parable is used two different ways, right? As some of the other ones from the last chapter also use two ways. Most times that I've heard this parable used in a sermon, it's used in a personal way, right? Which again, there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. So if I was going to preach this sermon with this parable, I would speak to everyone in the congregation and say, we need to be ready to meet the Lord at any time, right? That our life could end at a moment's notice, so therefore we need to be ready to meet the Lord any day because when He comes, then it's time. And if you're not ready, then you miss out because you're not ready when He comes. So therefore you don't mess around and don't go off the path. Stay on the path. Be ready to meet the Lord at any time. Right? That's generally how the sermon goes with this particular parable. Right? However, coming out of the previous chapter. If you remember, the disciples asked Jesus, when are you coming again? When is the second coming? And so forth. So I have to believe that this addresses that same question, right? So really, this is like a larger thing that it's talking about. It's talking about the second coming of Christ, which it says in 13. It says, watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. Right? So if you're wondering when I'm going to come again, I can't tell you, right? You don't know when it's going to be, so therefore be ready at all times, all right? Because you don't know when the day is going to be. That they talked about the other chapter about him coming as a thief in the night. If the owner of the house knew when the thief was going to come, he'd be ready at that time. But since he doesn't know, he has to be ready at all times. And so that's the same thing here. So if we're looking for Christ to come again, we don't know when He's coming again, so we need to be ready at all times. Right? And so the oil with the lamp was the idea of being ready or not being ready, because when the time comes, then it's too late to get ready. And so, just as the other chapter said, when it happens, it's going to happen quickly. All right. Well, this is the same thing. When it happens, it's time. It's not, you don't get a day's notice or a week's notice or even an hour's notice. All right. It's time. It's time. And so those who are His followers at that time, they get invited in to the marriage feast. Those who were not ready, as you see in 11, it says the other ones tried to get in afterwards, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. And He said, verily I say unto you, I know you not. right? Because the ones who are not in his family when he comes, he doesn't know them. So then it's too late to say, let me in. Well, who are you? I mean, I'm here for my followers. I'm here for those who are part of my family, those who are ready for my second coming.
For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them other 5 talents. And likewise he that had received 2, he also gained other 2. But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth, and hid his Lord's money.
Right, so we have another parable that's going to describe what the kingdom of heaven is like. All right, it says the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling to a far country. Right, it calls together his servants and gives them his goods to take care of. Him being the man who was traveling to the far country, right? Which typically that's God, of course. All right, in this case, the Lord is going away, and or maybe it would be Jesus. Let's say going up to heaven, and now he's leaving behind something for everybody to take care of, right? For his servants to take care of, right? And so it says, spikes out 3 in particular, right? So in verse 15 it says, unto one of them he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1. It says, to every man according to his own ability, right? And then he went on the journey, right? Now, I will point out that talents in this particular case is money, right? To see like a talent of gold is some large amount. I mean, like in the like $100,000 or something is a talent. So it's a lot of money, right? So that's what the talents are here. Now some people again jump on the fact that this talent is we can have talent like we have musical talent or some other kind of talent, right? And so which that's okay too. I mean that actually fits into the story, but that's not what the idea is. The talents are money. Okay, so he's giving them money. All right, so here's 5. We'll just say a talent's 100,000 just to make it a nice round number, even though it's some not round number, right? But so for the first one, it's okay. Here's 500,000 for you, and the second one here's 200,000 for you, and the third one here's 100,000 for you. All right. So he's probably thinking, okay, well this one with the 5 talents, he's my best guy, so I want to give him 5 of them to take care of, and this one 2, and this one 1. All right. So he does it according to their ability. So that's the idea, is that rather than give 5 to everybody, and some of them may be totally overwhelmed with this, so you just give 1, and yet you take care of 2, you take care of 5, right? But it's according to their ability, so therefore he just wants them to do what they can with what he's going to give them. In 16, 17, 18, you see the results. It says in 16, it says, he that received 5 went and traded with the same, or used those 5 talents, and made another 5 talents. So by the end of the story, by the end of this period, the one who had 5 now has 10, right? So he made it grow. And again, that's why it's good to think of it as the money, because think of it as like investing it, right? You invested it in some great company or something, and then now the 5 grew into 10, right? And then the next one, he had 2, and he went and invested the 2, or used the 2, and he got 2 more. So by the end of this period, now his 2 is 4, right? But in verse 18 it says, he that received 1 went and dug a hole and put the one in the hole, right? So he was hiding it and not using it. Okay? So clearly you see who's the good guys here and who's the not so good guy, right? Or at least in terms of what's expected, right? The 5 doubled it, the 2 doubled it, and the 1 he went and hid it in the ground. Okay.
After a long time the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoneth with them. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliveredst unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliveredst unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord.
In this part, you see the Lord of the story interacting with the that doubled their amounts. Right, so, because now in 19, after a long time, the Lord of the servants comes and reckons with them. In other words, he's going to see what was done. He's going to see what was done and determine now, what the results are based on him giving out all these talents to be taken care of. Right, so the first one comes up in 20. This is the one who started with 5. Said, "Hey Lord, you gave me 5, and I made 5 more, and so here you go. Now here's 10." Right, remembering that what was given to him to the servant did not belong to the servant, right? It belonged to the Lord, right? So the Lord gave him 5 and said, do something with this 5. And so he went out and made 5 more. And now he comes back to the Lord and said, here you go. Here's 10, all right? It's all his. See, it's not that the servant says, okay, I'm keeping a share of what I made. It's all for you, right? So he gives him back the whole 10. So now you see in 21 it says, thou good and faithful servant. Be faithful over a few things, I will make thee rule over many things, enter into the joy of thy Lord, right? Which would be the equivalent of entering into paradise, all right, or into the kingdom of heaven, right? So I trusted you with this much, and you did a great job, and now welcome into my kingdom, all right? And it's now 22 and 23 is almost exactly the same, except for the word 2 instead of 5, all right? And in fact, I suspect if you compare the words, they'd be exactly the same, other than the fact that there's a 2 instead of 5. Because he said, you gave me 2, and I made 2 more, and now here you go, here's the whole 4. And now, again, pay attention to the fact that in 23, see, the response is exactly the same. Like, there's no thinking, well, gee, I only gave you 2, so, you only made me 2. But he only started him with 2, so therefore, him doubling that was the best he could have done. And it was praised as much as the one who had 5, doubling it to 10, right? Because as you see, it says, "Well done, good and faithful servant. And faithful over a few things, I'll make thee rule many things. Enter into the joy of thy Lord." Right? Exactly the same. See, and so that part of the lesson, is good for us to understand. Is that if we're given different amounts of, and I'll say talents, talents, gifts, whatever, we do what we can with what the Lord has given us, and that's all He expects, right? He doesn't expect everybody to be to be the superstar, right? And he gives you what he gives you, and you go with that. And but you're treated like a superstar when you go before him, because great job, with what I gave you, you did the best that you could do, and that's all I would expect of you. And that's what he's saying for both the 5 and the 2. Great job, you did the best that I could have expected of you.
Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast that is thine. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury.
So the one with 1 now comes up, and you see his response. He says, Lord, I knew you were a hard man, right? And it says, and you expect people to reap where they haven't sown and gather where they've not strawed, and so forth. So I was afraid that I was going to lose your 1, so I went and hid it in the ground. Yes, I hid thy talent in the earth, and so here you go. Here it is. Here's the 1 back that you gave me. And so the Lord is trying to say, well, I did a good job because I didn't lose this 1, right? The fact is that that's not what the Lord expected, right? That's not what He gives us to do. And if He gives you a gift or a talent, He wants you to use it, right? Not to hide it and say, well, I was afraid I was going to lose it, so therefore I didn't do anything with it, right? And so He expects that we're going to do something. So that's why in 26 he doesn't say, well, good try or a good job, because he didn't try anything. In fact, He says, thou wicked and slothful servant, right? And you knew this, that I reaped where I sowed not, and gathered where I have not strawed. So if you knew that my expectations were that you were going to go above and beyond, then you should have been doing it, right? Because He said it Himself. He said, I know you're a hard man. I know you expect a lot, so therefore I didn't want to lose this. So, well, if you knew I expected a lot, then why did you do nothing, right? Why did you do nothing? You should have did at least the minimum, right? And so the minimum is what it says in 27. It says that thou oughtest therefore to at least put my money to the exchangers, which means like put in the bank, right? It says you're going to put in the bank and then leave and say, well, we got interest, right? I would have got bank interest, which, I mean, of course, maybe today that means nothing, but once upon a time, you used to get an interest in the bank, all right? And some of us are old enough to remember getting, 10 or 12% in the bank, all right? If you, so you're right, so that's all you had to do was put your money in the bank, and you would at least get 10% of your money after a year, right? So it says, if you would have put my money in the bank with the exchangers, then am I coming? I should have had my own with usury. Usury is interest. All right, so at least I would have got interest then on my money. Instead, I got zero. So it would have been like if I gave you my money to take care of at a time when you could have got 10% in the bank, and you just put it under your mattress, and then give it to me, years later. I was like, what do you mean you put it under your mattress? If you weren't going to invest it, you could at least put it in the bank. All right, at least I would have got something. All right, but here he did nothing. All right, he just hid it in the ground. So needless to say, he was not happy with that outcome, that he expected him to take it and do something with it, right? And likewise, if the Lord has given us talents, gifts, whatever, that he expects us to do something with it, right? He doesn't give it to you for nothing, he gives it to you that you can use it for something, use it for the building up of his kingdom. Again, not for our own selves, but this way we can give him some interest or some addition or something good coming out of what he's given us to manage for him.
Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him which hath 10 talents. For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance, but from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness, there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
So the final reckoning here, right, is he says, give me back that one, and that you've done nothing with. I'm going to give it to the guy who has 10. Saying, this guy knows what to do with it. All right, I gave him 5, he made 5 more. So here, let's give it to him. And at least this way now he'll do something with it. You're doing nothing with it. All right, so that's what he said. I'll take it from him. I'll give it to the other one. All right, and see now in 29 it says, for everyone that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance, but from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath. If you looked at that verse by itself, it would sound kind of like unfair, right? In other words, saying that someone who already has will give him more, and someone who doesn't really have will even take away what little he has. All right, it doesn't really sound very nice, but it's referring to what we're talking about. Right? What it's saying is that when it's saying about having or having not, it's talking about having the Spirit of God. Right, and having so if you have the Spirit of God, then even more is going to be given you. You'll have a life of more abundance, all right? But someone who doesn't have that, well, then God has nothing to give that person at the end of their life, right? If they don't have the Spirit of God, if they haven't given their life to Christ, or in this case, not having done anything with what was given them. It says even that's going to be taken away then, because they're not using it the way God wanted them to. And you can see in 30, it says the unprofitable servant gets cast into outer darkness. In other words, he's thrown out because he's not part of it, right? He doesn't have the Spirit of God. He's not part of the family of God at that point, right? Not really even using what little the Lord tried to offer him to make use of for him.
When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world.
Now, as we've been saying in the prior chapter and the first two parables of this chapter, a lot of it is looking ahead to the second coming of Christ, all right? And so now in this part, it says something that's going to happen when the Lord would come again, all right? As you see in 31, it says, when the Son of Man shall come in his glory, all right? So he's arrived now. It's the second coming of Christ, right? So it says, and with all of the angels with him, right? He's going to sit on a throne, and there's going to be a judgment, all right? And so in 32 it says, before him shall be gathered all nations, and they'll separate one from another as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats, right? So try and picture a shepherd, right, who is the one who owns the sheep, all right, the one who knows the sheep, and he's got a whole bunch of animals there, all right, and so there's sheep and goats. So he doesn't want the goats, he wants the sheep because he's the shepherd, all right? So he's going to separate them out and say, okay, sheep that way, goats that way, all right? Sheep to the right, goats to the left, all right? And he's going to separate them out this way. You can deal with the sheep and the goats separately, okay? And which again makes perfect sense. If he's the shepherd, well, the sheep are the ones that are his. Right? And so in 34 it says, then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, come ye blessed of my father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Right? The sheep are the ones who, of course, enter in because they're the ones that belong to Christ. He's the shepherd, we're the sheep, so the sheep get invited into the kingdom of his father for all eternity. Right? So when you think about the sheep and the goats, obviously you want to be the sheep, not the goat, right? And you want to be on the right side, not the left side, right? Because the right side is the one that gets invited in, the left side is not going to get invited in.
For I was a hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee a hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me.
In verse 34, just before this part, he's welcoming in the sheep, the ones on his right hand, and says, enter into the kingdom. And now he's telling them why they're going to come into the kingdom, right? Or what they did that was good. Right? So in 35 it says, I was hungry and you gave me meat, thirsty you gave me drink, stranger you took me in, naked you clothed me, sick and you visited me, I was in prison and you came unto me, right? So he says, you did all these things to me, and so you're my sheep and I want you in the kingdom, right? So he says, now the righteous, who are the sheep, saying, what are you talking about? Right? What are you talking about? If he's talking to Jesus, I don't remember that. I don't remember you being hungry and I fed you, or thirsty and I gave you drink, or in prison. I don't remember any of that stuff. So what are you talking about? All right, in 37 and 38, all right, and 39, it's asking all the questions back. I mean, when did we do this? I don't remember doing that for you. And now in 40, he says what he's talking about. He says, the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as you've done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, you've done it unto me. All right, so in other words, when you are there to help other people in any of these ways, it's like you're doing it to Jesus. So you think of it that way, and then it makes sense, right? And so he's saying that every time you help somebody, you were helping me. And so you think of it that way. You fed a person who was hungry, then you were doing it to me. Right? You gave somebody a drink, but you were doing it to me, and so forth. All right. So he says that because you did it unto all these people, that was doing it to me. And notice how he describes the people that it was done unto. Right? In 40 it says, inasmuch as you've done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, you've done it unto me. Right? And I always like to kind of underline that part. Right? That sometimes we get to feeling like, well, does somebody deserve it or not deserve it, right? Or is somebody worthy of our help or whatever? Think of the ones who are the least worthy, the least deserving of it, and you help them anyway. To me, that's the least of the people. And so if you're going to help somebody who's not deserving of it, but you help them anyway because you want to do it for Jesus, well, that's exactly what he's talking about, right? He says, if you've done unto the least of these my brethren, then you've done unto me. Not if you've done unto the best of the brethren, right? I mean, yes, help anybody, but they probably don't need your help. But the ones who are the least, the ones who are the beggars and the prisoners and whatever, all right, they're the ones that need the help. So you're helping them, you're helping me. So he says, therefore enter into my kingdom because you've helped me in all these ways, because you helped all those people in those ways.
Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungered, and ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me not in. Naked, and ye clothed me not. Sick and in prison, and ye visited me not. Then shall they also answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee a hungered, or athirst, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to one of the least of these, ye did it not to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal.
Right, so this part is now the opposite of what we just read, right? Now he's saying to the ones on the left hand, the goats or the unrighteous, depart from me, all right? You're not coming in. And now he says, why? He says, hey, look, I was hungry, you didn't feed me, I was thirsty, you didn't give me a drink, and so forth, you didn't help me in any of these ways. And just like the first group was saying, how do we help you? These ones say, well, what are you talking about? I mean, I don't remember you ever being hungry and I turned you down, or I don't remember ever, snubbing you in any of those ways, or ever not being willing to help you. And then his answer is the same as for the other ones. He says, every time you turn down one of the least of these, you're turning me down, right? Every time you refuse to help one of them, you're refusing to help me. So and I'm sure that the ones who he would have been referring to can probably remember times that was the case, or I remember, the beggars or whoever, prisoners, that they're the dregs, who needs to bother with them, all right? Well, every time you turn them down, you're turning me down, so then that's what they have to think about, and it's now, you're not part of me, and so you're not coming in, right? And so in 46 it says, so these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal, all right? So you picture this as the great judgment, all right, the great judgment time. Now, let me clarify a little bit, all right, that if you have the Spirit of God in you, all right, and your name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life, you're coming in, all right? But the idea is that you would use that Spirit of God to do the right things, all right? So again, I don't want you to, I know we all like to help people, or and I'm sure we all had times when we've turned down opportunities to help people, all right? And this is not to say that we're going to buy our way to the kingdom of heaven by going out and hitting every beggar down the street and giving them the money or food or something, all right? You don't buy your way into the kingdom of heaven, all right? But the real judgment is that your name's written in the Lamb's Book of Life. But the idea is that if your name's written in the Lamb's Book of Life and you appreciate what the Lord's done for you, well, then be willing to help even the least of them, because we're being used as instruments in the hands of God to minister to people. And these are people also. Again, they may be the lowest form that we come in contact with, but the Lord loves them too, so that we want to be able to be used by Him to help people as much as we can also.